My first girlfriend in New York, we had on a subway. And so I started talking about it on stage. And some people are like, yeah, what are you talking about? Like, you're gross. And I said, well, you know, this is what people did 20 years ago. It wasn't like it was like a crowded subway and my girlfriend and I said, look at us, look at me. It was the thing at 3 a.m. And if you're listening, you probably thought about it or you did it.
Ray, you've got to be the only person I've ever met who has a line in their bio in a profile on Dateline NBC and doesn't end with being a child molester.
Thank goodness for that, Zach. I always feel like I sound like such an asshole talking about myself, but...
I'm Zach Newmark. This is Damn Yankee, and right over here, comedian Ray Ellin, Aruba Ray Ellin.
That's me.
And here in Amsterdam, a different part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, but not from Aruba. I want to know, why are you called Aruba Ray?
I'm called Aruba Ray. I started going to Aruba sort of by accident in February of 2012, so it was 14 years ago. And I fell in love with the island. And beautiful. And I kept going every month for about a year. I was in New York. I'd wrapped working on this project. I was totally burnt out. And Aruba was the exact opposite of New York City. And I just fell in love with it. And I wanted to figure out how to spend more time there. So I opened up the comedy club, Aruba Ray's Comedy Club, in April of 2013. But the name came to be because all my fellow comics knew in New York, they knew that I kept going to Aruba. And one day one of them said, oh, look, it's Aruba Ray. And that just kind of stuck. It was Dan Natterman, I believe, who said that. Very funny guy. And he goes, oh, look, it's Aruba Ray. And that just kind of, that worked. And so that was it.
You know, what was your pathway into comedy and, you know, moving out to New York? Because I know you didn't come out to New York with very much.
Right. Right. Well, getting into comedy, I would watch, just saw it on TV. You saw who was ever on the Letterman, on late night TV, whoever's doing stand up on the talk shows. I was always, either by the host or by the act they had. You watch Saturday Night Live. Those were, I was always in, so that I'm like, oh, you could do this for a living.
Yeah.
My mother had clipped an article. She knew I was interested in comedy, and she cut out an artitle in a Boston newspaper that was all about the open mic scene in Boston. So in that regard, my mom did encourage it.
Nice.
For sure, yeah.
But I think I read something about you like living out of your car at one point.
Oh, right. Yes. So when I moved to New York, I knew I had to move to New York to sort of further my career. Boston's a really good comedy scene, but to get to the next level. So I had an old Dodge that had been my grandmother's, and I was given it, and I had that, and I kept subletting apartments in New York, and the first sublet ended, and I couldn't find something else that I could afford, so I was sleeping in my car. And I would park it, I think it was 76th Street between 2nd and 3rd. And I was like sleeping in the car. And like, I remember once I woke up in the morning, there was a school on that block. And some kids, like I woke up, they were like rocking my car. I mean, I think they clearly saw that it was my car and I was sleeping in the car, and they just felt like shaking me awake. So that was something. And I was eating, like, this one place had $1.50 hummus sandwich, and I would just eat. I would get like 3 or 4 of those a day. Like, I had no money, and then I got a job seating people at a music club, and then I got a job bartending, and then I became I sold postal uniforms. I worked for a company. I would go to different post offices in New York City, and I was a sales rep for a company that every mailman, every letter carrier gets a voucher, and they have to use that voucher towards clothing.
Right.
And I was one of the salespeople who would sell them their stuff. We had a 12-ounce gabardine all-weather pant. We had a 9-ounce in between. We had a 5-ounce lightweight polyester pant. We had a long-sleeve shirt. We had a short-sleeve shirt. We had a shirt jack with pockets on the outside. You had a regular jacket. You had a parka, hats, belts, socks, shoes. Whatever you need.
Well, if you start a podcast outfitting business, I could always use more clothes. Let me know. Yes. I mean, you're here doing these shows here, but by the time that people actually get a chance to watch this, you're going to be moving forward and off to the east of Europe. I think you're going to Hungary, Czech Republic for several shows as well.
Yeah.
Are you rapping in Paris? Is that where you're rapping?
Rapping in Paris.
Yeah, and then going back to the States. But people who know you, probably know you more as a Comedy Cellar performer.
Yeah. A lot of people know me from the Cellar. That's my home club in New York. It's great. I mean, I think it's probably the best club in America. I mean, it's just the shows are terrific. Whether or not a superstar shows up, whether or not Ray Romano or Chappelle or Chris Rock walks in, the shows are always really good. They're always packed. Mm-hmm. They're about to open their 5th showroom on the block, and it's incredible. They're all sold out. I mean, it's incredible. So I'm at the Cellar quite a bit, which I enjoy. It's great. It's a great club.
How is it that they're able to sell out venue after venue? I mean,
well, it's interesting.
Is that just the period that we're in with comedy?
Yeah, it's a I think it's their reputation, but I think social media is the thing that really made everything blow up for them. Because when people, as soon as the show's over, they were posting on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I just saw Louis C.K. I just saw Aziz Ansari, whatever. And so that's why Madonna once went on stage. And so that went out to 10 million people. So, they went from 1 club to 2 to 3 to 4 and now to 5. And so it's just, their pricing is reasonable. It's like, it's nice that I'm here doing a nice ad for the Comedy Cellar in New York City. But it's just, and it's fun. I mean, the shows are well run and it's good. It's not to say I don't work at other clubs in New York. I mean, New York Comedy Club is great. New York Comedy Club, you might want to check that one out too. The Comic Strip is the main club that that felt like the first big club that I got into. That's where Eddie Murphy and Seinfeld, I believe, that's where they started. And Chris Rock.
But also, I'm asking because, specifically opening more venues in New York like that. Yeah. Because I wonder if 3-4 years ago, the pandemic, aside, if you would have actually been able to do a tour, to audiences in Amsterdam and in Rotterdam and in Utrecht and, these different cities in the Netherlands outside of the capital, if you really could have pulled that off.
3-4 years ago. Well, I first performed in Europe 3 years ago. I went with my mother and my sister to Paris just on a vacation. I had 1 show lined up in Paris. That 1 show turned into 8. My mother and sister left, and just off those 8 shows, I stayed another 5 weeks in Europe, and I went to Germany and Spain and Italy, and I was in like 5 different countries. And so English comedy in English definitely was a thing 3 years ago for sure in certain countries. I mean, it had already been popular in Amsterdam for a while.
Sure.
But I did not go to Amsterdam on that trip. London I had performed in before. So I think 3 years ago it was certainly possible, but I think because of Instagram and TikTok, there's a lot of comics who are known in Europe. Like it's amazing to me. Like there's certain guys who I first met very early in their careers, and I get asked when I do these shows, they're like, "Oh, I really liked you. Do you know Chris DiStefano? Do you know Mark Norman? Do you know Sam Morrill?" And I'm like, it caught me off guard that they knew really well who all these comics were. So English speaking comedy, I do think, and it would have been very possible. I mean, I did shows with Ronnie Chang. Ronnie, was on the Daily Show, and he acts in tons of TV shows and movies. He's a great guy, very funny. And we did a show together in Paris. It was a 1,200 seat theater that he sold out, and then we did Berlin and Brussels, and like he has enormous amounts of fans all over Europe, and I get it. I mean, he's great, So it's just
it's strange.
Social media has absolutely made English speaking comedy a thing all over Europe for sure.
And you're taking advantage of this now, with these, but obviously, doing the shows in Aruba must also have been seen as something kind of absurd at the time when you started doing it. 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. My colleagues in New York, they were like, they thought it was nuts. I mean, the thing is that well, going back
your
to
shows. I mean, the shows at your club in Aruba sell out.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, consistently.
Yeah.
It's seasonal.
Yeah. It's seasonal. Yeah.
But for half the year, I guess.
Yeah.
Or just about.
Yeah. So we do. It's about 5 months a year, from mid-November until early April, and then we do summer is like 5 weeks in the summer, July into a little bit of August. And the reason for that is I still want to be in New York, and I love coming to Europe, so that's a good balance for me at this point. So, but the shows, thankfully, you know, it started off slow. I mean, it's primarily American tourists who come to the shows in Aruba, and you know, we recommend it being for adults. One time, a guy showed up with his twin 9-year-olds. He came to the club. And I said to him, hey, you know, you might not want to come in. There's some language. And in front of his kids, he goes, we don't fucking care. I go, great. Come on in.
Come on in.
So, you know, I think that the key to the Aruba shows is, I mean, I do think people enjoy what I do on stage. And also, I bring down really terrific comics, mostly from New York and Boston. So we have a lot of repeat business, and people do... I think they just leave feeling good. They might not even exactly remember who they saw. They might not remember a specific joke. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But they just leave feeling good. Mm-hmm. And that's like anything. If you felt good after a restaurant, you might not even remember what you ate, but I want to go back. So it's the same kind of thing, I think, with comedy. And why do you watch a movie over? You know, it just made you feel a certain way. A song, you know. So yeah, Aruba's been really terrific. It's been a blessing because I love just going there. I found it to be like this cathartic place, you know, after just being so fried in New York, you know, mm-hmm. and then to get to do stand up with it. It was slow in the beginning and had to build, but now we are the #1 nightlife activity on TripAdvisor in the country of Aruba. That's right.
You heard it here.
You know, one thing I will say is that the Aruba stuff it was promotion on the island and word of mouth. We never really took, there's some social media for sure that helps. Mm-hmm. But like when I came to Europe 3 years ago, no one really knew me from social media. That was all like, oh, he did well in person, let's give him more shows. Oh, I have a show in Germany, why don't you do that? It was that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas these guys, some of these comics in New York, it's like they've never stepped foot in Europe, and people know who they are, you know? And then they're coming here and they're selling tickets.
And then also this thing with, you know, owning your own club. Yeah. You know, I also kind of feel like more comedians are kind of starting to do that as well, or, you know, trying to use that as their entryway. We talked to Zhao Ying Summer recently. You know, she owns 2 clubs in LA where she performs out of, you know, but you doing this 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, not common, I don't think, at that time for comics to actually own their own clubs, right?
No, I don't think so. And I've never really been afraid to kind of just go for something. If I want to do it, I just do it, for better or worse. So far, I have a good track record. I always feel like I sound like such an asshole talking about myself. But, you know, years ago, I wanted to make a movie. And I put it on credit cards, and I sold it to 20th Century Fox, the Latin Legends of Comedy. So that worked out, you know. And then I wanted to have a talk show, so I started Late Net. It was like a live studio audience with an online audience, and
and you were taking questions from the online audience also.
It was wild, like to sit there, like to have somebody, like we're sitting in the studio in New York, and then to have like someone in Lebanon asking Leonard Nimoy a question about Star Trek. It was great. It was so much fun.
And also, I mean, you know, a while ago, it sounds like, it may sound like it was an easy thing to pull off by today's standards, you know, but we're talking.
This is like 17 years ago.
Right.
The technology was not remotely the same. It was definitely challenging for sure. And getting guests was harder back then because they didn't necessarily understand the reach that the show had, you know. So, you know, that was cool. So when I wanted to open the club, people, I mentioned it to a few friends. They go, "You're nuts. Like, what do you," because, you know, you're going to a foreign country to do this. Now, again, I knew there's a lot of American tourists. I just thought to myself, I think this will work. I don't think there's enough to do at night. Aruba has stuff. I mean, there's bars, there's casinos.
For sure.
But I just thought, I just think, you know what? I think this could work. There's a lot of trial and error, like doing a promotion here, a promotion there. Some things work, some don't. That's just normal with any business, you know.
And you know, we have a club like that here where you actually just played at called Boom Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Where Boom Chicago kind of, you know, when it started off and they opened it, you know, the guys who opened it were really just trying to pull off a theater where they could do comedy, and they were more focused on getting tourists in the door because 25 years ago or 30 years ago, you know, there wasn't a lot of that available in English. There weren't a lot of these types of performances that people could go to. That's developed over time where now, you know, they do get a lot of tourists in for their shows, but they also get a lot of locals who come to their shows. Some are expats, some are international students, immigrants, but, you know, also Dutch people as well. Is this what you see for your own business? Do you see this developing for you?
We get some Dutch people at the shows in Aruba. We get some Arubans at the shows in Aruba, some. But I'd say it's like 99% American and Canadian tourists, mostly American tourists. So I think it's definitely, it's picked up over the last few years in particular. And they definitely, it's something different for locals to do because, you know, everyone's always looking for something new.
Sure.
So it's picking up, you know, but again, it's primarily American tourists. We're happy to have everybody, you know. I mean, anyone who wants to come watch a show, it's great, you know.
Yeah.
It's it's fun.
You mentioned Chris DiStefano a little bit ago. You opened for him not too long ago at the theater at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, we
right?
did Madison Square Garden. That was awesome.
Is that the biggest venue that you've ever played?
I think so. I opened for Blues Traveler at an arena in upstate New York a long time ago. That was pretty big. That was cool. That was good too. And John Popper, he was very nice. He gave me a harmonica, and I was sitting in like the visiting team dressing room.
Right.
And I was just by myself in this massive, you know, locker room. And he came in. He's like, "Come on, come join us. Come on, the other one." And so I went to the other locker room, and that was cool.
You went to the Sabres locker room,
exactly. Yeah, that was basically. Team. I think it might have been in Buffalo. No, doing the thing with Chris was awesome. I mean, I've known Chris a long time, and I mean, the fact that he was doing that venue was incredible, and I was psyched that he asked me. It was exciting. I mean, I really put a lot of time into that set to work on. Like, I really wanted that to go well. You don't want to eat it. You never want to eat it, but in front of thousands of people, you really don't want to bomb.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have that experience once before where, you know, you were playing a big house and
not
didn't quite pull it off?
Well, when I was in college, I worked at a comedy club in Boston where I went to school, and I to this day, I mean, I remember how bad I ate it so badly, and it was like it wasn't a stadium, but it was like, you know, it was like 250 seats. And I was 19 years old, 20 years old. And I mean, I still remember how awful it was. And I had some friends and their parents were in the audience for some reason. And it wasn't like the kind of bomb where, like, you know, you're getting like some laughs. Nobody was laughing. Like, you can't blame the audience when nobody is laughing.
Right.
You know, unless like some catastrophe just happened. But I ate it so, like, it's still, like, it irks me when I think about it. But, you know, that's part of the business.
That's what therapy is there for.
Yeah, I suppose. Although I guess, but, you know, I think maybe you get into stand up because you need therapy to begin with. So could be part of it. It's definitely a coping mechanism, becoming a comic to some extent. You might not be aware of it at the time.
Right.
But I do think it is helping you cope with whatever shit you have.
Does it help you cope with whatever shit you have?
Yeah. I mean, I like to think I'm better off now than I was, when I was a teenager, for sure.
Yeah, I would hope.
I'm a happier person. But, being a teen, when you're a kid, I knew I wanted to be a stand-up when I was 11. Mm-hmm. And, the first time I performed at my 6th grade graduation, when I was 15, I did an open mic at a nightclub in Boston. And then I did more in college and then got serious when I moved to New York, But it's like, I mean, there's a lot of angst and anger and just sadness that comes out certain people experience growing up, and I think that helps fuel whatever natural sensibility you have. Mm-hmm. So for me, I made people laugh when I was like in the 2nd grade. I remember in school making people laugh. I remember getting a laugh when I was 4 years old out of some relatives of mine. I don't know why, but they laughed and it felt good, right? So, but maybe somebody else would they would take that energy into painting or whatever they're drawn to, mm-hmm. So I think for me, humor was the coping mechanism, which I think it is for a lot of people.
What were you using it to get over?
There's a lot of there's family stuff for sure. It was a challenging growing up in the environment I grew up in was a little challenging.
What about it?
It was sort of, for lack of a better word, I guess it was kind of hostile. It was tough. My oldest sister got sick when she was a kid. She developed anorexia at a very young age, and she dealt with it. She got better in her early 20s, and
it's a long time.
It's a long time, and she was a brilliant human being. I mean, she went to Stanford, got multiple bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, all in engineering. I mean, she was like unbelievably accomplished, had a great job in Silicon Valley, married, kid. When she was in high school, she wanted to run on the cross-country track. They didn't have a girls' team. She joined the boys' team. She became co-captain of the boys' team. She was in a movie when she was a teenager. Like, everything was just incredible. And she dealt with this disease. It's a torturous thing, and she got better in her 20s, and then she passed away 6 years ago, and she was like 50.
She passed away early during the coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, we didn't know. None of us knew if COVID factored into it, because it was right in the beginning of the pandemic,
right.
And she lived in California, which is where things were starting in Washington State, and then California. So when her husband and daughter were sick with what after the fact, it seemed like those probably were COVID symptoms. I don't know we don't know if she had COVID or not, but either way, the last 20 years, I think she was struggling with anorexia, and it's people can hide it really well. I mean, first of all, we live on opposite coasts. We didn't see each other in person very much, but I don't even think her husband was even aware. I don't know, but yeah, it's a terrible thing. I mean, she was such a brilliant, accomplished person, but had this demon. You can't. It's terrible. That's why I really feel strongly when I see certain people in entertainment or just anybody walking down the street, and I see someone who's just painfully thin. I know what's going on there. And it's a terrible thing.
What was that trying to get past the grief of that, especially at that moment when that happened, because you couldn't travel?
Right. So she passed away on March 1st, and I remember it. I was walking up the hill. I was going to go see my mother in her apartment in New York, and my dad was not with my mom at that moment. He was somewhere else, and I got a call from my other sister, and I took the call as I was getting in the elevator, and basically I sat down this might be a boring story. I don't know.
No.
I sat down. I was sitting on a chair. My mother was on the couch right over there. And I said to my sister, "You're on speakerphone. You can talk to both of us." And she was like, "Well, take me off speakerphone, whatever." And it turns out she and my brother-in-law were on the phone, and they basically told me this news. And I then moved and sat next to my mother on the couch. And then I put the phone back on speakerphone, whatever. And we, my mother is incredibly resilient. Like in that moment, it's shocking. You don't know how people are going to react. My mom is tough. She really is a remarkable person. So that was March 1st. So we had to get out to California. And I remember there were a few people on the plane going out that were wearing masks. Remember, we hadn't been in lockdown yet.
That's right.
There's nothing like that. We go to California. There were people at the funeral, some wearing masks. Some people didn't want to shake hands. But it wasn't a full-blown situation. So we had the funeral and then fly back to New York. And my parents flew to Florida because they lived part of the year there. And it was then it just became surreal because we went into lockdown like right after that.
Right.
So I couldn't go be with my parents. I really couldn't be with you couldn't really be with anybody. Like
you couldn't perform.
You couldn't perform. So immediately you're just alone in your home. You talk to people, you get on FaceTime with them, or do Zooms became huge. Some comic, a guy named Tony Deo, he started a trivia night. It was every Monday, and it would be like 80 comedians, and he broke us up into teams and whatever. And that was like a saving grace, something to do, just to have some contact with people. And people I knew about. I posted on Facebook because plenty of my people on Facebook actually know me or know my family. So a lot of them knew my sister and stuff. So. But you couldn't actually get a hug from somebody. You know what I mean? It was it's when I think about it now, it was surreal. It really was. And the only thing you can do in any time there's a situation like that, anytime you lose somebody, or you just have to keep moving forward. I mean, it's hard to remind yourself of that when you're in the thick of it. A guy called me during that time and he said to me, my employees are getting bored. I try to have a weekly motivational speaker on for them. He goes, I don't think they're getting motivated anymore. Do you want to do comedy on Zoom? And I said, I'm going to pass because I just don't think it's going to work and I don't want to take your money and whatever. And so he kept pushing me. He goes, look, it's okay. I want you to do it. And he didn't know about my sister, but he just said, I want you to do it. And I don't care if it doesn't work. I'll pay you anyway. It's a good experiment, whatever. He's a very nice guy. He had been to shows live in Aruba, but he did not live he lived outside of New York. So I put together a show on Zoom. I didn't have a proper microphone or proper lighting or anything, but we did a show and it was pretty good. Yeah. Like you're watching everybody on little boxes and I'm moving around. And when I got off that thing, I go, there's something to this, and more people are going to want this. And I like that it was a challenge. It's not easy doing comedy into a little camera and you're not really hearing people well and whatever. So I started this company called Comedy Cloud, which we don't really do Zoom shows anymore. There's no need for it.
Right.
But I ended up doing like 100 shows on Zoom during the pandemic. So A, it was something to do to keep busy. B, it was income for myself and other comedians. And C, I think it really gave other people out there something to do. I mean, I was doing the shows with the Aruba folks and doing shows for these corporate events. So that we raised a lot of money for organizations in Aruba. The Aruba shows, those tickets went to fund like people in need who were out of work and things like that on the island. So it was that was very helpful in dealing with the loss of my sister. Never mind that it also was some employment, but it was because, when you're on a Zoom show, you're talking to people, you're in the thick of it, you're engaged, and I'm doing, crowd work, moving around. I created this format that I thought worked better. Like it was short, like, people doing 3 minutes each and in like a rotation round robin sort of thing. And, but then when you say goodnight and you close your laptop, immediately you're just you're alone in your home again. Like you just went from being really engaged to nothing. Whereas like you come off stage, you can hang out, you can talk to the audience, you can talk to your fellow comics, you're whatever, you walk out in the street, it's just a different experience, And here it's like you're engaged, alone. Like it was strange. It was just, the whole thing was such a strange time. And then about 3 months later, I saw my parents in person after my sister's funeral, which I was dying to see them in person.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great because, it was just the whole thing was nutty. And then Aruba opened up July 10th. I was on the first plane. I was the first person off the plane. I was so happy. I stayed there for 9 weeks. The island was dead. I mean, there was nobody there. But they opened it because there was no COVID at the time. And I knew, and people were celebrating, but I'm like, it's going to pick back up.
Yeah.
And it did, of course. But it was just such a relief to be in Aruba where you have, the water and you could go to the gym and you could just do stuff.
Right.
As opposed to New York, which was nothing. And I actually was a little conflicted because I'm also thought I should just keep staying with my mom and dad. Mm-hmm. But my mother was like, no, get out of here. Go to Aruba and enjoy
Get
yourself.
out of our house.
Yeah. Leave. So,
I mean, you are a pretty entrepreneurial guy. I mean, between that and the club, but also, you've developed a bunch of shows and like you self-financed that documentary.
Yeah.
Is that a benefit for you? Or is that something that gets in the way of developing maybe your stand-up further? Where, do you kind of chase these different opportunities?
That's a good question. Yes, it definitely gets in the way. On the one hand, I enjoy producing. I enjoy creating stuff. That Comedy Central show that I did, it was called This Week at the Comedy Cellar. And it was myself and the owner of the Comedy Cellar, Noam Dworman. And it was a weekly topical stand-up show. Mm-hmm. And we did 3 seasons. And that ended because of the pandemic. We got the last show, it got wrapped the day we went into lockdown.
Right.
And then I guess a lot of people got laid off a few months later, and then that was the end of that. And it's funny, I wasn't even that upset. People said, "Oh, we're really sorry. We can't renew the show because the pandemic. We can't shoot any new episodes. Blah blah blah." And I was okay with it. I was sort of like, something new will come along. It was a great experience, and I was happy to do it. But I'm like, man, it's okay. I wasn't as bummed as you might think. I was also just dealing with the loss of my sister, so the other stuff didn't matter quite as much. But it does get in the way. Yeah,
because I'm asking in the sense, like, I look at kind of what your career is now and what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder, if you'd be headlining more, if you'd be playing bigger crowds, if your social media presence would be a bit larger.
Yes.
If you didn't do these other ventures, if you didn't step out on these other sides. And then on the other hand, there's something to be said for taking a risk and trying these other ventures also. I like
taking I like a challenge. I like coming up with something and seeing it come to life and come to fruition, for sure. Right before we sat down together, I made a note in my phone. There's this one-man show that that I've been thinking about for the past year, and I put a couple notes in my phone right before we started talking. So yeah, I would really like to focus energy on that, and there's definitely a lot of things performing-wise that I would like to do. So yeah, the other stuff does get in the way. On the other hand, the other stuff does make you a better living if if things are successful. I mean, you are risking everything. I mean, you have to put money up to get the ball rolling, and you have to work hard. It's very time consuming. Takes up a lot of hours in the day.
Right.
So that is why it is great to come here. And even though I'm not doing 2,000 seats on these shows in Holland, in the Netherlands. It's just fun just to get on stage and just perform.
Yeah, totally.
For sure. And to an audience that they're very appreciative. Like the audiences in Europe, in Barcelona and here and Vienna and Paris, like they're excited to see comedy in English. Like it's still newer to them. So like it's good. Like the audience is so happy to be there. Like, in New York, the clubs, sure, they're happy to do it, but they might have done it many, many times. Mm-hmm. If they're tourists, they're kind of excited that they're in New York.
It's the New York club.
It's
right?
the New York club, yeah. Sure. But yeah, and it's also fun for me to see new stuff. I mean, I'm going to go look at windmills after this. I can't wait.
With the shows that you've done in the Netherlands so far, also you had told me you did one about 5 months back as well. Do you find that the Dutch audiences are different from other audiences? Dutch audiences have a reputation for sure.
Well, that's funny you say that, because I think, like, I've had Dutch people at shows in New York and obviously in Aruba as well, and they've always been good. They can be, when you talk to them, if you do crowd work with them, they could be a little more straight laced. But their English is very good. Mm-hmm. So in that regard, they can be better than other parts of Europe. I can speak at a pretty normal clip, and that. But yeah, when you ask somebody, just a pretty mundane question, you might get a pretty boring response.
A pretty mundane answer.
Yeah, very mundane answer. Yeah. So that does happen sometimes. But I've actually found the audiences, so far Amsterdam, they've been great. I did a show Boom Chicago, that was great. We were in Utrecht.
Yeah.
Did 2 shows in Utrecht. One at Mad Cow. Yeah. It was like an afternoon show. It was packed.
Yeah.
It was great. Mad Cow comedy was great. And then the other one was Comedy House.
Yeah.
HUIS, Comedy House. Mm-hmm. And that was terrific. So it's like, and then upcoming, again, this will already have happened, but we're doing Comedy Cafe in Amsterdam, Club Haug in Rotterdam, which I heard is terrific.
It is, yeah.
So I'm excited about that. And a place called Prael, Prael.
The brewery, De Prael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's later tonight,
which
great. Again means nothing if you're watching and listening right now.
But the next time that
the next when I come back.
Are you finding that you have to make a lot of adaptations to your material?
Yeah, you have to certain references for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I discovered that the first time I was in France when I went on stage and I was talking about naming certain well-known places in America that absolutely do not resonate. They're unknown in France, like the name of a particular pharmacy. Mm-hmm. So now if I do the joke, I just say I went to the pharmacy. I need to name names.
Right.
And that's fine.
And are you localizing material at all? Like, do you have bits about the Netherlands now?
Yeah. I have some stuff. My stuff about the Netherlands is not as good as my stuff about Germany. Germany's an easier target. Frankfurt. Ugh. It's just sort of gray. It's the drab. It's the Cleveland of Europe. I mean, it's just. Yeah, you definitely come up with stuff. You don't want to be too obvious. You don't want to talk about. I think every comic probably does a joke about the red light district. Mm-hmm. Or about a windmill or that kind of thing. I mean, I did do a bit about the Anne Frank house, which does very well in other parts of Europe, and it did well on one show here. And the other show, people got really uptight. It's a good bit. It's just a good bit about Anne and her sister. A lot of people don't know she had a sister, and and some people get offended just bringing up the topic. There's certain keywords in comedy that if you just say the word, people tune out and they don't even want to hear the rest of what you're going to say.
Maybe it also depends on what their family members were doing during the war.
Correct.
When they were here, which could also have quite an impact maybe on how responsive they are.
Yeah, I can't laugh at that because I have too much guilt.
Right.
There's that for sure. But I'm like saying, it's okay. Go ahead. You can laugh at this. It's fine. But I actually tried the Anne Frank thing in Aruba, and that didn't fly with that crowd. It's
just too nice of an environment.
Maybe. I think they're in vacation mode. They really don't want to hear about comics don't really do political stuff in the Aruba shows, and not. Of course, there's a lot of comics don't do politics in general. Mm-hmm. I'm not a terribly political comic at all. And that's good. People just want to break and they want to laugh, and that's why they're there.
Some of the things that you're maybe most known for to people who know your work is your crowd work.
Yeah.
Which I assume a lot of that comes out of hosting gigs as well, but also just the repetition and the stage time it comes out. At the same time, there's lately, I feel like, kind of a backlash against crowd work comedians as well. Do you feel that's fair?
I'm very conflicted when it comes to crowd work online, posting crowd work. I have hundreds of hours of crowd work, and some of my good friends who are really good and successful comics constantly tell me that I am nuts to not post it. But I see so much crowd work posted online, and they say, yeah, but that's bad. It's bad crowd work. If you post good stuff, it's okay because you don't want to be part of the, there is a bit of a backlash. I have a friend who does a lot of crowd work, and he is good at it. and his social media following has grew 50-fold in the last 2 years. I think crowd work is one of those things. It's a natural ability that you get just better at. I mean, you have to be able to talk and listen and come up with something funny, right? And just and I see people all the time, they're terrible at it and they shouldn't do it. And my friend Brian Scott McFadden, who's an exceptional comedian, he's always very positive with me, and he's just like, you got to get this stuff out there. You need to do it. And I enjoy crowd work because I am naturally curious about people. I really am, and that helps. I mean, it helps if you give a shit to whom you're talking to,
right? Right.
And I see people, they're just using crowd work just to try to get into a bit. They're using crowd work, and it's just an uptight conversation, and it's just like, what are you doing? You should not be doing this. Just do your material.
So then why not publish it? I mean, or why not post it online if you think it's good quality work, right?
If anyone is listening, I don't want to watch my own material and clip it. I don't want to do that. If anyone is listening who would like to take my footage, watch the bits, and chop them up, I'll hire you. I'll be happy to have you if you're skilled at clipping stand-up, particularly crowd work. I'd be totally psyched with it. I have so much footage, and some of it, like, I don't know, Mike Vecchione, he's a comic who tours with Nate Bargatze, and Nate, does arenas. And same thing, Mike, we've done shows together. He's like, oh, you're going to put that whole thing with that guy and who's a web designer, and you did that bit. I go, yeah, I'll put it up. I mean, that was a year ago. I haven't put it up,
Is it about the time and the effort that's involved in it, or is it, a hesitance to actually take the leap and see how people react to it?
It's three things. It's the time and the effort, and it's not wanting to sit and watch myself, because I don't love doing that. And then the last thing is, sure, like, how are they going to react? Less so other comedians, but just people in general, because you don't want to post something and like 20 people like it. That's not terrific. I mean, I have a little bit of a following on TikTok. I have more people on Instagram, but yeah, you kind of just need to go for it. It's silly considering I'm all about taking risks.
Yeah, that was absolutely
and doing stuff.
Yeah,
it's interesting. This is turning into a very magical therapy session.
But what is the difference between saying screw it, I'm opening a club in Aruba, versus putting 90 seconds of banter between you and somebody sitting in the front row?
Because the 90 seconds of banter is me. It's personal, and you hope that it might have killed in the room. You hope it's going to translate as well as a clip. Whereas opening a business, there's just a lot of other variables. Like, if it doesn't work out, well, my rent was too high. There was terrible weather and all these flights were canceled, so that's why it didn't work, or blah blah. It's just all these other things. It doesn't feel like it's as much about me. It is about me. I'm the one opening the business and getting it going and ultimately making it a success, sure. But stand-up is such a personal thing, and it's funny. After I've been doing it for so long, you would think that I'd just say, fuck it, everything's going up. If I could snap my fingers and all my footage was clipped up and captioned and all that, yeah, I would put up 3 clips a week every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. That's what I would do. I've thought about it, obviously.
Clearly. I mean, is this also the other problem about getting into really any performing arts in general now, is that it's not just about doing what you love. It's about, you have to do the social media and you have to do the communications. I like talking to comics. I like talking to stand-ups a lot because stand-ups had to make their career promoting their own shows.
Right.
So they're already comfortable talking about what they do. They're already, easy to contact compared to, say, musicians who are performing arenas, right?
Sure.
At the same time, I wonder, do you also hold on to the negative set a little bit more? And does that also hold you back?
It's not healthy to hold on to anything that's negative, but comics don't just hold on to the negative set. I mean, often you hang on just to that one negative joke. You try out one new bit in a set that otherwise was very good, and that one new bit doesn't do well. Like, you're like, shit. I mean, you really can you can obsess over it. You can really bum you out. You can think the set wasn't good. One of the sets I did in Europe, I was working with my friend Tom Cotter, who's very funny. You interviewed him.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's out yet or not, but and he was the runner-up in America's Got Talent. And I said to him after the set, I go, man, that sucked. And he goes, what are you talking about? And I was really kind of fixating on 2 bits that I didn't think went really well. And he was like, he really was like, what are you talking about? That was a really good set. Like, it was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, as soon as I got off stage, that is what I went to. I don't always do that.
Does that also kind of make it harder to pull the motivation together to share your clips online then?
It's a little different because I can then stop and go, yeah, that was a good set. It was a good set. Yeah, that one bit didn't work. So what? I'm more bummed about that because it might have been a new bit that I rolled out that I really just wanted to work, that I thought was really good as is, and clearly I need to tweak it and adjust or overhaul it or throw it out. But the putting the clips up, that's something I've really wrestled with because again, yeah, I don't want to be lumped in as like, oh, some shitty crowd work comic, even though I know I'm not. I know I'm, again, not to sound, all humility aside, I have a reputation for being really good at that.
Right.
But, you just hope it's going to translate well. And ultimately, yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, I'm chastised by some of my colleagues for not posting more of those clips, and I appreciate their encouragement. I just have to pull the trigger.
And if one of those comics who you respected was just messing with you and said you really shouldn't post any of your clips online, would that be the motivation you'd need to go the other way?
Oh, that makes it a breeze, sure. No, but if they, yeah, that would make it so easy not to. But I was, it's the same thing. There's a comedian named Lynn Koplitz who's very funny, New York-based comic. She's great. And years ago we dated, and nobody knew about it then. We dated for a year, and we kept it quiet. And she likes to go on stage. One night she just went on stage. I was hosting the show at the Comedy Cellar, and Lynn goes on stage, and out of the blue she goes, "Yeah, I used to sleep with the host, everybody." She was more graphic about it. And then I remember a waitress turned and looked, she goes, "Is that true?" And I go, yeah, it's true. And then she continued, "Yeah, we were together for like a year. Wasn't it, Ray? Like a year?" I go, yeah, Lynn, it was a year. And it was just the whole thing. It was very funny and complimentary and caught me off guard. And she's done that. She's told the crowd multiple shows now. She'll tell people that. So she goes up, she kind of
it wasn't just complimentary. The clip. That? I mean,
oh, you saw the clip?
I've seen the clip.
Oh, you saw the clip. She's very nice about what she says. But so that is an example of a clip that is personal that did go up. But in that clip, it's more about Lynn praising me. So it makes
we can just acknowledge the elephant in the room. Literally, the elephant in the room. She was praising you for being well endowed, if memory serves, right?
Okay, that's what the clip was. Yeah,
I believe.
I forget that part that she says that, but that's her opinion. And that's fine, and she's entitled to it, and that's okay. It's embarrassing. But when Lynn did that, I go on stage after. And I say, "That's Lynn Koplitz, everybody. That's a woman that really knows how to keep a secret." and it always does well. But that's a clip that I've posted that somehow I just felt, for whatever reason, I'm like, yeah, put that up. Like I didn't think twice about it.
See, I think you do have some red light district material in there.
Maybe I do. Maybe I do. Yeah.
What are the other projects that kind of you have your eye on at this point then?
Well, my sister is a journalist and a writer and produces podcasts and things like that. And she and I have optioned a book. It's a great story. It's a true story about a guy who was born in the early 1900s in New York, and he was one of 9 kids. He was the only boy in the family. He's gay. His parents were from immigrants from Eastern Europe. His dad was a cop. He also was an Orthodox Jewish family, and he moves to Spain and becomes the first American matador, the first American bullfighter, and best friends with Ernest Hemingway.
Okay.
It's an incredible true story. So
this is true.
This is totally true. So we optioned the book, and we've been developing
What's
that.
the book called?
The book is called Double-Edged Sword, and so the project is called The Matador. And so we just recently signed with a production company to further that project. So that's exciting. So there's that. There's a game show that I did a pilot for, a host of, trying to sell that. It really is hard to get things on the air these days.
For sure.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
And then there's two charity. I mean, I do a lot of charity work. There's two organizations in particular. One is called Community Mainstreaming Associates. I'm on the board for the fundraising board for that, and we do a comedy event every year for the last 20 years, and it raises money for mentally challenged adults, and that's in the New York area. And then the other one is called the One Love Foundation. And the One Love Foundation is for dogs. It's our emphasis is spay and neuter, and also we do help with adoption. And that organization is based in Aruba, and we do events in Aruba, New York, and Boston. So we have events coming up in October in New York and in Boston.
And your work, I mean, it's raised a couple of $1 million.
All together,
for charities, right?
I've raised a lot of money, which I'm actually really proud of. I think if anyone can, you have to do what you can. I think in general.
Was that always something that you kind of had an eye towards doing? Was doing more charitable work, or is that something that came up at a different point in your life?
It's something I always wanted to do. It became more of a reality just as my career progressed, and I felt like you get better at what you do, and then your reach expands. And then I thought, I can really, you think you want to make a difference, you want to contribute to society. I think some people don't give a shit. I do, and I probably learned that was part of my upbringing from my grandmother and my parents. You do what you can. So. Yeah, that I'm very pleased with. When we did the dog event in Aruba last March, and they asked us. They said, "Can we do we want to shoot a commercial for the event, the comedy event?" And I said, "Great." And we went to the shelter, and they brought out a dog, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like I was immediately hooked. Like I fell in love with this dog. In Aruba, they're called Kanuku dogs. These street dogs are Kanuku. This dog was super well trained. He's probably about a year old. I think he's part lab, part Kanuku is my guess. But he must have been with a family that had him because he was just so sweet and so well behaved. And then I was like, oh my God, I got to have this dog. And he went back into his cage after, and I went in there to kind of say goodbye. And there's a video of it online on my Instagram. And he's putting his paws like on my hands. Like it's really, I don't know if you're a dog person or not.
Totally.
But it was just so sweet. And I said to my friend in Aruba, who lives in Aruba all year round, I said, look, this dog's awesome. I can't adopt him. I mean, you're allowed to bring dogs back to America.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. And I travel a lot for work. I said, let him live with you. I will pay for everything. Just he has to live in your house. He goes, well, I have to make sure he gets along with my dog, and I like blah, blah, blah. I go, great. So I have to set up first a play date between my friend Rick and the dog.
Right.
And then I set up another play date between the dog and Rick's dog, and they got along great. So now it's just one big happy family. And whenever I'm in Aruba, which is about half the year, I get to, I can be with the dog every day.
Yeah.
But it's just, that story might, I don't know. I don't know if that resonates with anybody listening. If you're an animal person, they're the greatest. Dogs are the best.
But I'm also curious kind of, how you started doing more, of these sets and more of these events to actually raise money for charity, because, to be able to say that you've raised a couple of $1 million for charity is no small thing.
Yeah.
I can see looking at you that you're proud of it, and you're embarrassed in a way when it gets brought up, maybe a little bit as well. So, again, being someone who's entrepreneurial and someone who has spent time trying to improve their career, taking that much time away from that to just raise as much as you can from charity. Also not very common.
Well, thank you. I mean, it feels good to do it for sure. And it doesn't embarrasses me a little bit to talk about it, but on the other hand, you have to talk about it because you hope other people will get involved or other people will get inspired to maybe do something. So it is sort of like a necessary evil. Like somebody once said to me, they said, two people were talking, and one said like, that Oprah Winfrey, you know, she gives people stuff, but she's almost like this. It's so like she's so seems pompous about it, blah blah blah. And the other person said, yeah, but at least she's doing it. At least she's doing the charity thing. Let her feel however she wants to feel. So I always remember that. But the way I managed to get more involved with these two particular charities was I was just asked randomly, hey, would you host a comedy show? We're doing an event at a comedy club. And I said, sure, you know, so I did it. And you get paid something. I mean, you have, you know, when you do these events at comedy clubs, you know, generally speaking, the venue is making something for their space and the comedians are making a little something for their time, but you're raising so much money that the organization does very well, right? So I was asked to, you know, give you a little honorarium I said, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. What's the organization? They told me what it was. It was great. It was the Community Mainstreaming Associates. And I really just enjoyed their mission and meeting the people on the board and whatever. And they said, would you like to get more involved? So that's how that started. And similar with the One Love Foundation, a board member, Michelle Tenorelli, whose name deserves to be mentioned because it's unbelievable how much this person accomplishes in for animals, for dogs and cats in Aruba and in general. So she asked me, she goes, would you mind if we did something at the club, and it's for dogs and cats in Aruba and spay neuter, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. And then when I saw how serious they were about it and everyone volunteers and I see the actual work they can do, that made me want to, she invited me. She said, would you like to be on our board? Yeah. And so we don't just do there's a comedy event and then there's other events. There's there's other dog events throughout the year in Aruba that we do. There's like a road race and a walk and this and, you know, different things. So it's basically, I was asked to do a show and then just really believed in the causes and I liked the other people involved. And so they were serious about it. So that's how I got more involved in those. I've done other events over the years for different organizations, raising money for like Alzheimer's organization and a cancer thing, that. There's all kinds of stuff. But those are the two that they asked me to get involved, so I did.
I mean, I'm sure your parents must have a source of pride.
I think so.
I
think they do.
But were they always feeling like that? Like, you know, did they always think that being a comedian was the right path for you?
No, my father was definitely not into it. I remember when I was 11, I told my dad I wanted to be a comedian. I remember he was shaving at the time and I mentioned it. And he goes, what do you want to do that for? You're not going to make any money. It's a hard life, whatever. So for 3 days, my plan was to be an orthodontist. And I remember I'm like, that's terrible. What do I want to do that for? And so my mother was more supportive. My mom was a classical pianist and among many other things, she was a certified music therapist. She did music therapy with elderly blind people. She was a music director at a place called Boston Aid to the Blind. So she performed and she did there's a lot of good things she did and taught piano and whatever. So she was cooler about it than my dad. My dad was an electrical engineer who designed cameras at Polaroid.
Okay.
They're both brilliant in their own ways, very different ways of different careers. But
Polaroid, now a proud Dutch company, I might add.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That is right. There's a camera called the SX70. If you Google that, my dad designed the electronics for that.
All right.
A very famous camera. He was a salaried employee. He didn't get millions for it, but it's the most iconic Polaroid camera ever invented.
And also
SX70.
Doesn't exactly lend towards, you know, someone who thinks, oh, hey, this would be great if my son got into stand-up.
That is 1,000% right. Yeah, he was not into it. But then they both came to New York. You know, again, my mom was supportive, but, you know, cautious, like what's this going to be? I was probably, I don't know, say 25 years old. They came to a show at the comic strip. It was a Saturday night. It was packed. There was a line out the door, and it was a really good show. And after that, my dad never questioned it again. I don't think he fully got like what it was, you know, when he saw that people were entertained and it was and it was popular. After that, he occasionally would like, oh, why don't you talk about such and such on stage? They were never good ideas, but he would got more enthusiastic about it. And now, you know, they come to a show occasionally. They'll come once or twice a year in Aruba, and they'll come to something in New York, and and that's cool. You know, that's nice. And my sisters are into it. You know, my oldest sister would watch. I would send her clips, and she enjoyed that, or she would see TV appearances and stuff. And my other sister once in a while will come to a show. But yeah, no, in the beginning, no one in my family thought it was a good idea.
Right.
Not at all.
And you've proved them all wrong.
Take that, family. Yeah.
Ray, probably you've got to be the only person I've ever met who has a line in their bio that starts in a profile on Dateline NBC and doesn't end with being a child molester.
Thank goodness for that, Zach. Yeah, I was profiled on Dateline, and they hooked me up. They hooked up like all these like electrodes and stuff to me. And they discovered that when I go on stage, my heart rate drops. Like I get almost like calmer on stage. I guess that was the point of it. So that was an interesting finding. I had no idea. They kind of followed me all around New York City on the subway, and an acupuncture appointment, and this and that, whatever.
I mean, why were you the one who was picked for that story?
I don't know. I don't even know how they found me. I got a call one day. Maybe somebody from a producer from Dateline had seen me do stand-up, and it was Hoda Kotb did the interview. Hoda Kotb's she was on the Today Show.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And very, very lovely woman, terrific broadcaster. And yeah, so I was surprised. I think in the clip, I say to her, I go, it went down, like, you know, referring to my blood.
Yeah.
It went down.
Is that what you feel? Like, so then after you saw that, or after you participated in that, did you start noticing that on stage?
Well, it made me think about it sometimes a little more. Now I tend not to, but because I think sometimes you get on stage, especially when you're not really thinking, you're just doing. I almost get like into a trance. Like a lot of times I walk off stage and I really don't remember what I had just done. Like, you know what you did. You know you did well. You know, maybe you talked to this, but specific things that I said to a person, I know it was funny. I know, you know, whatever. I know I talked to a guy from, you know, Maryland about his, you know, his ant farm or whatever it was. But but the specifics I forget sometimes immediately when you come out. It really is like almost like just being in a perfect world. I think that's, you want to be in like a trance. You don't want to think too hard. You just want to flow and just kind of sit back in the pocket and boom. And you know, that's a good feeling.
Do you get edgy when you're not on stage?
Sometimes.
Or not edgy like as in, you know, like your material gets edgier. I mean, do you feel like you're on edge? Do you feel more stressed when you're actually not performing?
Only if I have like a long list of things to do, or if there's like some sort of family crisis I need to deal with, like normal stuff. But no, my everyday walking around, I don't think that's how. Nah, I don't really operate like that.
Yeah.
But apparently it's less so on stage, you know. But when I get like a lot of stuff and I'm multitasking, I'm sure I'm a little like, you know, boom, 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 for sure.
Yeah. And what is your process like? I mean, are you spending time during the day writing every day like some comedians do, or?
Well, because of these businesses that we've talked about, I really need to set more time aside to do just that, just to sit and write more. But that is generally, before I opened the club, that is really what I used to do.
Yeah.
Just sit. You just have to sit, turn everything off, and just focus. Put away your phone, turn off the TV, and just sit and just wait.
That's what works for you, as opposed to, you know, letting the idea just come.
Well,
and
it's
then writing
both.
Down.
It's both. No, things pop in my head all the time, and if I'm smart, I'll make a note right away in my phone or scribble something down.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think, oh, that's really good. There's something there, and I'll remember that. And of course, you know, 6 other things happen over the next 5 minutes, and you forget about it. So you have to write it down right away. That happens all the time. Often something will pop in my head. I'll scribble down a note, and then later on sit down with it and try to elaborate. Other times I will just have a germ of an idea and walk on stage and just talk it out. I do that quite a bit. I'll just walk on stage with like, you know, just about something that happened in the elevator in the hotel. and I'll just walk on stage and just kind of just talk it out and see where it goes. I mean, sometimes you realize that there isn't enough meat just from that one experience that you're talking about, and maybe then you connect it to something else within the showroom. You're almost then pulling back in somebody maybe you did crowd work with, and that's not ideal for the future of that bit. You want that bit to stand on its own, but in the moment, it works within that show.
Do you ever get into trouble for the material that you're working out? I mean, you're pretty clean. You're relatively clean.
I'm cleanish. Yeah.
But do you ever get into trouble because an idea is too raw or it's at too raw of a state and everybody's putting everything online now?
I don't really. The only stuff, there's some personal stories. I was talking to Ronnie Chang about this. There's a story. My first girlfriend in New York, we had sex on a subway. And I mentioned this to Ronnie, and he was horrified at first. He said, "You're disgusting." And I said, "Well, this happened. This is what people did 20 years ago." He's like, "People were disgusting 20 years ago in New York." And I'm like, "Yeah." And we just started laughing about it. And so I started talking about it on stage. And some people are like, "Yeah, what are you talking about? Like, you're gross." But I lean into that in the bit, and it was a moment in time. I was very early 20s. If anybody's listening to this, it wasn't like it was like a crowded subway and my girlfriend and I said, "Look at us, look at me, look at us." It wasn't like that. It was the thing at 3 a.m. a long time ago. And if you're listening, you probably thought about it or you did it. So don't hold it against me. But anyway, but other than that, it's happened where sometimes an audience will get a little uptight over something.
Does it make it hard for you to work out new material?
No, because you do have to just go for it. If a joke bombs, like, so what? I mean, I'm not flying a helicopter in Iraq. I'm not, I say that. I know earlier I had said, you fixate on that. Yeah, you might focus on that one new the thing that didn't go well. You're thinking about that because you wanted it to go well. But in the grand scheme of life, like, well, so what? I mean, so the bit didn't do well. I'm not, it's okay. It's get past that. It's all right.
Yeah.
But you want it to work. You really do want it to work. It's very satisfying when something new, something new flies.
It's nice because it doesn't sound like you're particularly. It doesn't sound like you're very worried about whether or not your material will offend somebody online or whether or not you'll drum up any outrage or anything like that.
Yeah, generally I'm not. I don't ever want anybody to leave a show really feeling badly. You don't want anyone to feel badly. I was once hosting a show and a comedian went on stage. This is in New York. And a woman walked out of the audience like crying because I guess he did a joke about kids, and I guess I started talking to her when she came out by the bar, and she was really upset. I guess she had lost a child recently, and it just like that triggered her. I mean, the comedian wasn't at fault. I mean, he didn't. She just, and she said he's terrible and he's talking about children. And I talked to her, and I feel like I kind of talked her down off this ledge, because it wasn't directed at her, and I felt terrible for her. She was in a lot of pain. You don't want to see that. So you don't want anyone to ever leave feeling badly about themselves or angry at you, or I don't want that. You can't control everything. I mean, if I do a bit about internet dating and somebody had a bad experience in internet dating and they walk out of the room crying, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, right. I can't, maybe going to stand-up show is not your thing. I mean, but get off the internet. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but, I
mean, is that something that comes out of doing this for as long as you've been doing it? Because you've been a comedian for a really long time now.
Yeah. I just think I do think I'm a compassionate person. I do think I have empathy for people. I do want people to have a good experience in general, not just if it's in my club, but in general. And you want, ultimately you care, but you don't care. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, oh, you didn't like my joke, you didn't like my act, great, whatever, see you later. On the other hand, you care because you want to keep growing and building your fan base. Why wouldn't you? That's natural,
Right.
So it's it's an interesting thing. I do think you get better as a performer when you start to care a bit less. So when I started to care a little less, I used to be on all the time when I was off stage, and it was good if you're like flirting with women and this and that, or just, but it was more like you're just on for everybody because you needed that attention, you needed that affirmation, and as I got older and as you sort out your own stuff, that just became less important. Like I'm totally fine I'm fine being quiet at a dinner table. I may talk, I may not, like whatever. I mean, I'm not going to be rude, but I'm okay with somebody else kind of being in the spotlight. I just don't care about it as much.
So if you don't really want to punch down during your shows and you don't want people to kind of, leave all upset in that way, are there comedians that you won't book for your Aruba club?
I typically don't want to book people for the Aruba shows who are A, super political, B, are just filthy, like really dirty, because that's not what like
dirty just to be dirty.
Yeah, they're just dirty, or just like some are just like, if you're really dirty, like just really overly edgy, and I enjoy that, but I mean I personally don't have a problem with it. If it's funny, it's funny, but in Aruba,
is there anyone you want to name that wouldn't be bothered by naming them?
No, because they might take it the wrong way. I mean, whoever I haven't booked probably knows that it's because either A, that they're too dirty. I told guys, I said, I go, look, man, I think you're great. You're just way too dirty for the club. And it's not like it's not like everyone has to be squeaky clean in Aruba. And it's not like the audience is like a bunch of fragile, delicate people. I mean, these are adults who, but it's just not what the club is. They're not expecting it. Some people are going to a comedy show for the first time ever in their lives. And it just might be, and again, I hope I'm explaining this well, because I'm sure other comics could hear what I'm saying and they'll go, well, screw you, you shouldn't censor people and blah, 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 because I am all for free speech and, do whatever you want on stage. But for this club, and often sometimes I'm deliberately a little dirty at the top of the show just to establish this is what it is. You're in a nightclub.
Right.
You're hearing material. It might be a little risque, and deal with it. And people typically don't have a hard time. One time a guy did a bit. I got some complaints, a couple emails. A guy did a religious based bit, and I got some emails from people who were offended by that. They were kind of religious, And I said to I talked to the comic. I go, look, you do whatever you want. I'm just telling you what happened. And he said, I don't want to cause any problems for you. I don't want to cause problems for your customer base. So he didn't care if he did the bit or not. But,
right.
So whatever. But if they're super filthy, that's not going to be great. If they're super political, it's not going to be great. If they're a jerk to hang out with, like I've had really good comics perform in Aruba. I can't have them back because like I might have known them a while. I might have known them. I might not have known them. But they're just unpleasant to be around.
Right.
And part of the gig is, now we're not hanging out together 24/7, but I can't have people that are going to be rude to the wait staff. They're going to be rude to the people at the hotel or wherever we're staying. Like I don't want that, or they just became difficult with me. Like why would I want to deal with you want to make people's lives as easy as possible in any project, whether it's an acting gig or anything.
And even though it's Aruba, you can't just go around marrying seniors in high school or I fucked it up.
But that's okay. Don't even do that. Don't even. You're talking about the Natalie Holloway.
Yeah, I was going to say, because, which is also, a whole other thing. Yeah.
Well, that thing, once in a blue moon, that gets brought up. Not often.
About Natalie Holloway.
Sure. And that is a horrible, horrible tragedy. And I can't even imagine what her family went through, what her poor mother went through. But to be fair, that was the one time in the history of this country that happened.
Right.
Whereas in America, it happens every day in every city, and it's a terrible statistic. So when people bring that up, I'm like, Aruba is arguably the safest. It's one of the safest places on earth. You can go anywhere you want, any time of day. I've been to a lot of islands. They were like, don't leave the resort. Aruba, you can go everywhere you want on the island.
Right. It's
safe. It's friendly. It's clean. The beaches are amazing. The restaurants are terrific. It's like, it's really a wonderful place.
Just don't be an asshole when you're there.
Yeah, don't be a jerk at my club. Don't on or off stage. But that is really that. It's interesting, and I also do feel badly because there's some comics who I get hit up. I get like 300 emails a year from different comedians who want to perform. My rule now is I have to have seen you live in person because I've made a couple mistakes. I booked people who had a really good tape. They had an impressive list of credits, and they came down, and wow, it was bad. Like it's terrible. Like I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like either that was a laugh track and I got tricked, or I don't know what happened. So I want to actually see somebody in person. Now the hard part is that you're friendly with people you work with sometimes, right? And you see them perform, and they do well in New York,
right?
But I just know they just won't do well in Aruba. And people don't want to hear that. Everybody, and I feel badly because everybody wants to feel like they could do any gig. I can't do any gig. I'm not right for every single audience, You like to think you are.
Also, it's the difference between being a performer and a business owner at that point.
Yeah,
right?
You really have to draw the line. I mean, there was one time, there was a guy who I was friends with, and I brought him down to Aruba, and he was being difficult about something. And I got to the point where I said to him, look, I've known you a long time. We're friends, but I'm going to talk to you as the guy who hired you. You got to knock it off.
Yeah.
And he was cool. Then when I said it like that, he understood. And I brought him back, and we never had any problems, and he's a terrific comic. But it's, I mean, you have to wear some different hats. And I have one friend I've been friends with for a long time, and I've gotten him lots of gigs. And I said to him, I go, yeah, you're really just not right for Aruba. And he just unfriended me on social media. And I'd known him 20 years. So I felt badly, but I said, are you seriously that upset? I go, if you really want to come, how about I just bring you down to Aruba and don't perform, and I'll fly you down and put you up and don't go on stage if you're really that offended. Like, I don't know. It was a weird, you feel badly. You don't want to.
Did it patch things up by doing that?
Yeah,
or sort of not really.
He didn't end up taking me up on that offer. We have since patched things up, yes. But and I think when he thought about it, he's like, "Oh yeah, Ray is my friend. Oh yeah, Ray has got me tons of work. Oh okay, I'm not right for this. It's fine, But there are, and I have brought people that I thought would do great and didn't do that well. It's just that's life. That's the way it works, for whatever reason. But it really is difficult saying to somebody, I'm really sorry, I just don't think you're going to do well down there, because people don't want to hear it and they take it personally. But what am I going to do? The conversation has to be had if they're going to keep asking,
Yeah.
And I do, I've had several hundred comedians that perform now over the last 13 years. And there's just a handful that really stand out that were either really bad on stage or really difficult off stage. So for the most part, it's been smooth sailing,
Great. Well, where can people find out about you and where you're performing?
Well, you can go to Ray Comedy, RAY Comedy. You go to raycomedy.com. You can go to Ray Comedy on Instagram. You can go to Ray Comedy on TikTok. You can go to Ray Ellin. My last name is Ellin on Facebook. And that's the best way. So we have more European shows, and then New York, then back to Aruba, then back to New York, and then back to Aruba.
That's excellent. Ray, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking an hour for our little therapy session here.
I hope my insurance will handle this session, and I'm prepared to give you the copay. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, Ray. Damn Yankee is an NL Times podcast. The show is created by me and Peach Rizzo. This episode was produced by Laura Bodger and Marcus Engel.